everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter. I am joined, as always, by Tim.
Hello.
Such an enthusiastic hello from Tim.
This trying to think of like a right hand of God pun or something. I don't know.
Well, this is the horror movie podcast. We talk about horror movies here. We get together, we watch the movie, we discuss it. It's really that simple. It's not rocket science. Which is why Tim passed the test to get on it.
Hey, come on now.
So, in this episode, we are going to be talking about Frailty from 2001, which is notably directed by Bill Paxton, who's also in the movie. Obviously, he's an actor typically, but he directed this one. Matthew McConaughey's already in there as well. And we also have Powers Booth in here, who's also passed away. Actually, he passed away a few years ago as well. So we have have a bit of a cast here. This is a film which I've heard many people call this like kind of like a borderline prequel to Supernatural in a lot of ways.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, and if you've seen some seasons of Supernatural, you'll know why people make that joke and that comparison. But you can definitely see it.
And it's funny as you say some seasons, because like, yeah, even if someone just watched like 5 or 6 seasons, you could say that's still like some seasons of Supernatural.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's what I watched. I watched 6 seasons of Supernatural.
Yeah.
And there's 9 more if I ever feel the need to go back and watch the rest.
I mean, with quarantine, I don't know, like the need to just kind of like view all the stuff you never got around to doing. It's Supernatural is always kind of begging me there.
Have you ever watched any of it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm about the same as you. Yeah, like okay. I watched 6, maybe 7 seasons. Like pretty much like most people. You watch up until the point where it ends. Like where it's like, okay, this is where it should end, and then it goes for like 9-10 more seasons or whatever. So.
Yes, my joke with that is that I mean technically I don't know if it actually was the CW yet. It may have actually still technically been WB when it started, but. The actors start off as CW hunks, and then by the time the show ends, they're both in their 40s because the show went on that long.
I always do get like interested though, because it seems like every year they always have like some crazy like episode thing where they'll be like, oh, like hey, they're doing like an animated episode or something, or like a crossover episode, and I was like, that does sound kind of interesting. But then, yeah, the idea of being like, but then do I really need to? Go back and watch like the 12 seasons that I missed or whatever. Like, I don't know.
There's a lot of standalone episodes, so it's probably the sort of thing where if you do stick with it, there's probably a lot of pretty fun individual episodes sprinkled throughout. It's just a case of do you care enough to bother doing it. But hey, we're here to talk about Frailty though. So we'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers somewhere in the middle, and we'll get into it. The premise of this is that Powers Booth plays this FBI agent who comes into the office. He's called in late one night because a man has come in, played by Matthew McConaughey, who claims to know who a serial killer is. A serial killer, the God Hand killer, they call him in the press. And he explains that he thinks his brother is the killer. And this is to him telling the FBI agent of his past, his childhood past with his brother and their father, who in the flashbacks in 1979 is played by Bill Paxton. And so we get these 2 young boys with their father. And it's essentially a story of, Bill Paxton seems to be this kind dad, this single dad who the mother died during the childbirth of the younger son, but he seems to be a working dad who does the best he can for his kids. But then all of a sudden, one night, claims that he got a vision from God and was told that he is a demon killer and that him and his boys are going to have to hunt down demons and kill them. And of course, Matthew McConaughey is like, yeah, as a kid, I was like, yeah, my dad's went nuts. But the younger brother, of course, is like, yeah, Dad, I believe you. We're superheroes. We kill demons. We destroy demons, So it's kind of a story where it's like, okay, his dad was basically becoming a serial killer and trying to induct both of his sons into helping him kill people. So that is the gist of Frailty. There are obviously more things to the story that I can't reveal. There's twists and turns and stuff that is unveiled as the movie goes on. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So. Tim, first of all, have you seen this before? Was this a first time watch for you?
I have seen it before, but I mean, it's been forever. Like I didn't see it in theaters, but I probably saw it like around the time when it came out on video. So probably like early 2000s ish. So I wouldn't say like I had a like a crystal clear memory of it. Like I remembered some beats and like kind of like some stuff from the ending, but yeah, it still felt like pretty fresh when I was watching it. And I feel like this is like one of those like, hey, you know what kind of movies where it's like I feel like not a ton of people talk about it, but every now and again I will hear someone say like, hey, you know what movie's actually pretty good? And they'll be like, you know, Frailty, and they'll be like, and then yeah, whenever someone says that, people go, oh yeah, like I forgot, but no, that is like a pretty good movie. And that was kind of like the memory I had of it, was like a yeah, like maybe not a movie people talk about all the time, but when it is brought up, people are kind of like, oh yeah, no, that is pretty good. So so I actually yeah, was pretty excited to watch it. And yeah, no, it definitely like lived up to yeah, I guess it's maybe a bit of a cult reputation. I don't know, I feel like people like it, but I know, I thought it was a pretty solid movie.
Yeah, I'd seen it before as well, but it'd been like you such a long time that I bizarrely I kind of like I couldn't remember how much, if it was good or not. Basically, like
Yeah.
like, it'd been so long that I wasn't really trusting my opinion of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't remember all the plot beats, but there was one specific little twist that happens at one point that I did remember. So it was kind of weird watching it with just having that one bit of knowledge, which admittedly I was second guessing myself throughout the movie. Like, did I remember that right? Is that really where it's going? Kind of thing.
Yeah, there's one thing that I remembered, but then I like second guessed myself because of something that happens in the movie. I was like, okay, so maybe I'm remembering that wrong, but then it turned out I remembered it right.
Yeah. So no, and I, you know, watching it again, I also think it actually holds up fairly well, and I was surprised that. Because ultimately, you know, this story about these two kids and this the older brother basically being because the younger kid's like young enough that he's just kind of going along with whatever his dad says and believes that he's having these visions from God, but the older kid who's, you know, maybe about 12 or whatever is like, no, I think Dad's going crazy. I think he's actually turned into a serial killer, and we really have to do something about it. And I think Bill Paxton, who obviously plays the dad and directs the movie, his directorial skills, which obviously are kind of the weird unknown element here, are pretty solid. It feels like a really, you know, it's not like superly stylish in a lot of ways, but it feels like a movie. And that sounds like a weird thing, but there's so many movies today that are VOD that are shot in really sort of simple digital style that I actually really respected just how much of a sort of normal early 2000s movie this felt like in a lot of ways.
I get what you mean, yeah.
But there's a couple of flourishes here or there of like a stylistic moment. There's a great moment where he's in silhouette at one point, which I thought actually had a lot of weight to it because of what was happening in the scene at the time. So there is nice little touches here or there. But I actually think the casting of himself as the dad is kind of perfect. I think Bill Paxton has this kind of likable quality to him that when he is sitting down and saying, I got a vision from God's son and it's really important that we hunt these demons, you know, people are getting hurt because of these demons and we have to go after them, and you may not believe me yet, Fenton, but it's the truth. And he delivers these lines with such a sort of calm, like, I don't know, embrace that he's kind of the perfect guy to really sort of make us go, okay, he's definitely going crazy, but like, I get why the younger son believes him, and I get why, like, he has the right qualities to really sell this, I think.
Oh, no, yeah, totally. He's, he's so, like, matter of fact about everything. Like, there's never any point where, like, you know, because most people you would kind of, like, say, like, try to reason with them and be like, well, how do you know this? And it's just, you know, there's never any, like, wavering on his part, which is kind of scary. And also, I feel like kind of, you know, maybe like a little relevant today, because I feel like, you know, there's so many people that you see like will just read something online and then take it for the gospel truth, and then, you know, like never second guess like anything. And yeah, no, that it's he's really well in it, and like you know, like you said, you know, he's directing and stuff, and you know, it could seem like a vanity thing, like he's just putting him in the movie he's directing, but he's like not like he's not really like the main focus. Like it's all told from the kid's point of view, and like I feel like you know, you don't see him like a ton in the movie, which I guess makes his scenes like even more impactful when
I don't know,
you do see him.
I may argue that he actually has the most screen time out of any of the adults, and he's a very important character. Sure. Yeah, I mean, you see the kids more for sure. Yeah, I mean, I mean that's I won't argue that the kids definitely get the most screen time. I think it's weird because obviously he's an actor first, right? People know him as an actor, so I think it's kind of weird. Like it's this different when it's something like, I don't know, Tommy Wiseau or someone putting himself in the movie, where it's like, okay, like, but it's kind of, I think it's a little bit different when it's an actor who's an established actor who's acted in like dozens, if not, you know, hundreds of movies, and then becoming a director and putting himself in the movie. It's like, well, he can get parts. It's not like he's struggling to get parts. So here's the weird comparison is, see when he's like sort of, well, not lying, because he's not lying, he believes what he's saying, but see when he's like saying stuff to his kids and he's talking about like how important all this stuff is. Do you know what it actually reminds me of in terms of his past performances? It reminds me of his character in True Lies when he's trying to convince Jamie Lee Curtis he's a secret agent. Like, there's something about the way he delivers these lines that reminds me of that. Like, out of all the Bill Paxton roles I could think of, because it's not like it's making me think of his character in Near Dark, where he's like, finger licking good, or anything like that. You know, he's not being sleazy, charming Bill Paxton here. He's being kind of like, no, I've got a mission, son, and we have to achieve this, son, or you know, this is important.
I mean, I'll take your word for it because I've never seen True Lies.
But it's so true. And full of lies at the same time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, unfortunately,
I've said before, I have no. I mean, I'm not much of an action guy, and even more so, I really don't like anything dealing with spies. Like spy genre stuff never really interested me at all, and I know like this isn't like a typical like, you know, James Bond kind of movie or something, but I don't know, there's something about that just never really interests me.
It makes fun of some of those tropes, but come on, yes, Laurie Strode in The Terminator and Tom Arnold for some reason, and a young Eliza Dushku.
Yeah, maybe someday. I've never gotten it. I mean, honestly, like I you know, like a lot of nerds and stuff. You know, like I do love Bill Paxton, but I don't know if I've seen a ton of stuff he's in. Like obviously Near Dark, obviously Aliens, Twister he was in.
Yeah, Terminator too.
Yeah, Terminator, like those big ones, but I don't know, I can't really, and obviously like those are all great performances, so you know he definitely stands out, but I can't really think of like much else I've seen him in.
Apollo 13? Seen that?
No, never seen that.
We see Apollo 13. Okay, we can keep going here. Hang on. He's got a really small role in Commando. I watched Commando again recently and was shocked that he's got like a cameo in that.
I don't think I've seen that. If I do, I don't remember.
A fun movie we might do at some point is called The Vagrant. I really like that little movie. He's a guy who becomes obsessed that there's a homeless guy living across the road who won't leave him alone. It's kind of like a paranoid comedy, I suppose, but it's definitely got horror in there.
I feel like I've heard the title, but I don't think I've seen that.
Predator 2.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I obviously have seen Predator 2. I can't really even think of who he plays in it, but
he's in there. He's the only man not living, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
But he's the only actor who has been killed on screen by a Predator, an Alien, and a Terminator. I mean, that is cred for you right there. He's in Titanic. I'm sure you've seen Titanic, right?
Oh, okay, yeah. But like, I mean, I guess like these movies that he's in though, like I can't really like picture him like in it. Like I don't know who he played in Titanic, like a waiter or something like.
Edge of Tomorrow.
The Iceberg. I don't know.
Did you see Edge of Tomorrow?
Oh yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah, he was in a bunch of episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in season 1. So that was a thing. That's a lot of Bill Paxton. Paxton's he's one of the greats.
No, I mean I absolutely love him. I just haven't can't really usually think of like too much I've seen him in. But I mean again though, like you know those first couple of movies that we mentioned though, those are like all timers, like so good.
Yeah. What was the point we were making before I was ripping you apart for not seeing True Lies?
Oh, well, you were just saying he reminds you of his character from that.
That's right, yes. Because he's kind of a sleazy like car salesman in that movie, but he likes to convince women that he's a secret agent to try and get laid. And yeah, part of him like saying like all this important stuff is actually the most it's the most Bill Paxton sort of role that this reminded me of in a bizarre way. Except here, of course, he believes it.
Yeah, and I don't think you really mentioned it yet, but this is like takes place in Texas, so there's like a very like kind of like country, like kind of rural feel to it, which I really like.
Yeah, yeah. So no, it's an interesting set, and it's an interesting like perceptive where like he just comes home with like a tied up woman at one point. Because everything he says, because he says is like, oh, okay, so God's going to soon give us like the three magical weapons that we'll need to destroy demons, and then God gave me a list, and in fact one of the most out there scenes of the whole movie is when he's a mechanic and he's like working under the car, and the car like underneath like forms into like a cathedral, and there's like an angel with wings coming down to him. So no, it's like all that stuff, but a lot of the entertainment is like we're just watching like the kid's reaction, and Fenton especially, who thinks his dad's going crazy.
Yeah, and well, like you said, like he has these demons to kill, and he brings them home, but they are just people. Like we're just seeing them as normal people.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's a really interesting dynamic for a story. I mean, if I have a critique about the movie, it's that sometimes it feels like it forgets that it's technically being narrated by Matthew McConaughey telling the story. I feel like his voice comes in a lot in the first half hour, but once the movie gets going, it feels like we just sort of follow the events in 1979 and it don't really cut back to him as much. So, because there was a point where it cut back to him again, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. There was a whole present day bit with Matthew McConaughey that I'd forgotten about almost. So maybe it could have reminded of his narrative voice a little bit, maybe once or twice more. So that's a minor nitpick though in the grand scheme of things. So
and it pays off like in the end, like that they're I think there's like a nice reason to have it being told
sure. Oh yeah,
from his point of view and stuff.
Yeah, it's not just that we want to have a narrative like framing device. It's not just that. There is kind of a purpose to having it framed this way, which is good. So obviously there's so much of this we can't really talk about until we get to spoilers, because there's a lot of sort of reveals and twists and turns and all sorts. But I like how the movie feels. I like the sort of period piece setting for the majority of it. And and Bill Paxton, he kind of, as much as it is the kids' movie, he kind of steals the show in a lot of ways. So so before we get to spoilers, though, I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers. At the time of recording, of course, these often have changed a little bit. Either there's more or less some different names by the time we actually put these episodes out, because we record them in a little bit in advance. But thank you to Alison M. Fordyce, Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, and Zammer Jammer. They are all $20 or above patrons, and that's what makes them producers. But you can support us on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month, and for that $1 you'll get an exclusive extra episode every single month, although in October you'll get more than one, because we're especially generous during the Octoberthon. But you can get extra episodes every month. There's a whole back catalogue now, so you'll get access to the whole back catalogue of about 20 episodes that are exclusive to Patreon. You get bonus episodes of other shows as well. At the $5 tier, you get to vote on an episode every month. You get early access by one day to all the movie episodes. So go check out Patreon if you want to see all the bonus content you can get and feel warm and fuzzy on the inside for supporting your favourite horror movie podcast. So, yes. Anything you'd like to add, Tim?
At the $100 level, we'll kill a demon for you. Just send us your list, and we'll make it happen.
Don't say 100, because there's actually a $100 tier. Yeah, so to say like 500 or something. Yes.
105.
Tim will hunt down a demon for you. Yes, just send him a name.
That's the God Hand tier.
The God. The God's Hand tier. Very good. All right, so full spoilers for Frailty from this point on, because there's a lot to talk about in terms of the twists and turns. Maybe that's just one where we kind of reveal the ending and kind of work our way back, just because it's it changes the perception of so much of the movie, which ultimately goes through the paces of like, okay, witnessing the dad doing this for the first time. I love the visual, actually. See when he's like describing how the dad gets like the weapons, and he's just driving to work and he sees like a the God beam, the God ray of light coming from the clouds hitting this barn, and then he goes in and the light's hitting this axe and the gloves. It's like, I don't understand what the gloves are for. It's like, oh, the gloves are for like so I don't like have to touch them until I get them back to our because well, later on there's like a proper like dungeon, but to begin with it's just kind of the shed, and it's like, oh, if I touch them with my bare skin, I will see the demons for who they really are. And I love that when he touches them, we don't see anything. We're seeing this through Fenton's perspective, but it's like nothing happens. But the audio, like the subwoofer goes nuts. It's like boom, as if he's like feeling something.
Well, I mean, I saw something, but I guess you don't have enough faith.
I'm okay with branding you a crazy man. That's fine. I'm okay with this line of thinking.
Well, I mean, if we're in the movie here, I think the movie kind of sides on. I mean, it's ambiguous, but like by the end, I was kind of like, wait, is this like real? Like,
well, we're getting to the reveals. We're getting to the spoilers. I just wanted to make clear though before we get there that when Fenton like starts talking to his brother about wanting to run away and turning the dad in because he's doing bad stuff, Bill Paxton basically wants to like sort of essentially force him into the arms of God, because he essentially implies that God's probably asked him to like kill his son because his son's like a demon himself, and he says, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make sure you see the eyes of God or see the purpose of God. And he makes him like dig like the dungeon in the garden, but they're going to put the shed over. And you know, he gets his hands are all bloody and he's trying really hard, and he keeps saying that you know, if you felt the word of God yet, and he's like, nope. And then eventually when he's flat out saying that he's going to turn the dad in, and his brother like rats on him essentially to his father. His father traps him in the dungeon for like a week, and every day he comes in and says, hey, have you heard the voice of God yet? And he's like, nope. And it's not until after like a full week where he's been in this you know, dark dungeon, no light, nothing, where he eventually is like, yes, I've seen the word of God and all the rest of it. And it builds up to this big climatic moment where they've kidnapped like the third adult, right? Because the first one was just this nurse where the dad got them on his own and brought her back and killed them in front of the kids, but the kids didn't really do anything. The second one, he still did most of the killing himself, but he did make Fenton sort of get involved in the kidnapping, where he used kind of Fenton as a distraction because he was like sort of under the guy's car and looking for a dog, and he snuck up behind the guy and like knocked him out and claimed that this was a child murderer, that this man was murdering children. That's why we had to kill him. That's why we had to destroy this demon. And when Fenton tries to get the sheriff involved and Bill Paxton has to kill the sheriff just so to keep everything quiet, he's like, Fenton, you made me kill a man tonight. That's what you made me do. And that's why he locks him in the basement to like sort of, so you'll see God eventually. He wants Fenton to kill this you know, this final demon, this guy they've went and got from somewhere, who does fight back a little bit, but Fenton's able to knock him out, and they've got this guy in the basement. He's like, Fenton, you know, you've got the axe, you know, go for the neck, you kill him. But it does this thing where it builds up, and instead of swinging for him, he swings for his dad, and this is how Bill Paxton dies in the movie. And this is where, in the present day stuff, it reveals the twist that Matthew McConaughey, who's been claiming to be the older brother the whole movie, is actually the younger brother. He's actually Adam, the one who believed his dad the whole time. And turns out that he is here because he believes this FBI agent is a demon, and he's a demon that needs to be destroyed. And that the brother, that the older brother, Fenton, is in fact an evil person, a demon, if you will, and he has been this serial killer, and this is why his dad was supposed to kill him. And it flashes back to all the moments where Bill Paxton touched the people who he claimed were demons, and we actually get little flashbacks showing that this is all real, that the person he said was a child killer, we see this man like kidnapping a girl. You know, we see all these people being awful. These are actually all at least evil people, if not outright demons. And that Matthew McConaughey, who is actually the older Adam, is hunting down demons from names that he gets from God. So, I guess thoughts on that twist?
No, I like it. And I do remember that twist from when I first saw it. But then as I was watching it, I was like, oh no, like he keeps referring to himself as Fenton, so I was like, oh, maybe I'm misremembering it, or something, because I thought it was like maybe less of a twist and more of like a reveal, like, oh, like you're supposed to think he's this person, but that person. But then once, it does get to that part where it's like, oh wait, no, I was remembering this correctly. But
yeah, no, I remember the switcheroo that he was actually the younger brother. I didn't remember all the stuff being real. That was something I'd forgotten.
Yeah. But I mean, I do like it's kind of funny because I feel like you could almost have like a totally, like a whole nother movie where yeah, he's hunting down his older brother. Like, I like that dynamic where it's like, all right, well, they both became killers, but like, yeah, one is because he's continuing his dad's work, and then the other, I guess he kind of assumed that, like, he's so messed up from like these experiences that he just kind of became a killer on his own right. But I mean, the idea of these like brothers kind of tracking each other down, like, kind of seems like it could have been like a fun movie in itself. But
yeah, that's kind of what I like about the twist, is that, like, I mean, there's two parts to the twist. The part that Fenton grew up to just be a straight up serial killer, right? That part I really like, because given what his dad put him through by like putting him in the basement for a week, making him dig that basement in the first place, all of that stuff, and then everything he made him do and what he put him through, like, yeah, this would screw up a kid. This would mess with their head and like make them kind of like crazy. Like, of course this may have this effect on them. But then the other twist being that, no, all the demonic and like message of God stuff, at least the part about all these people being evil and needing to be killed, is actually somewhat true. There's a real... Well, I mean, you could argue, I suppose, that Adam's just crazy and he's just thinks he's seeing these flashbacks and they're not real. I suppose you could argue that if you want, but I feel like the movie's not really playing with that per se. It's more, at this point, it's like you take it at its word that, no, these people are actually awful, and that Adam turning out to be awful, or sorry, Fenton turning out to be awful, and that, so when it implied that Bill Paxton was like asked by God to kill his own son because his son was a problem, it kind of like justifies that twist almost later on, because it's like, oh no, he grew up to be a serial killer. But I think Matthew McConaughey does say at one point that he couldn't actually go after his brother until he actually got the name from God, until he got the list himself.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, and it's like funny to think like, okay, yeah, did this mess him up enough that he took this route, or like, like God said, like, maybe he is a demon, like, so maybe he was always gonna end up this way. But the stuff that I find like kind of compelling is the idea of like in the movie they kind of talk about like, how are we gonna get away with this, how are we gonna not be seen, and they kind of keep saying like, oh well, God will shield us, like he'll make it so we can't see. And so actually, that, like,
that's just kind of the thing that proves that it's just not like craziness. Actually, this is the thing that kind of at least heavily implies that no, this is just all real.
Yeah, like at the end when they're looking through the security like footage, and like all this stuff with Matthew McConaughey kind of seems to be like, you still see someone there, but it's all kind of like, like,
if you imagine if you imagine an old VHS tape with like when it distorts, the distortion line's always where his face is, so it's just always covering up his face. And even the other FBI agent who technically saw him sitting there, because we saw him clear as day come in and talk to him at one point. He's like, I kind of vaguely remember, like, I know I looked right at whoever this was, but his face is a blur, right? Because it's such a sort of like a simple little line from Bill Paxton earlier. It sounds like he's just kind of making excuses to like say, oh no, we won't get caught. Cameras and like everything else won't see us because we're doing God's work. It sounds like just a crazy person trying to justify why they don't have to worry about it. But then at the end, you see like all this evidence that says, no, people don't remember Matthew McConaughey walking into the FBI. People don't. The videotapes are all distorted because there's like a natural shield preventing anyone. And I get the impression that this is just not always. It's not like if he's just going to the store to buy his groceries. It's not like then he's distorted. It's only when he's doing the God's work,
the mission
of taking out demons, that he's protected by this.
And like. And that was like a question I had like throughout the movie, like when like they're going and burying these bodies in like this public rose garden, and like I kind of kept thinking like, all right, this seems a little weird. Like I know they're doing this late at night, but like no one's ever gonna see them out here, and they're not gonna see like all this dug up earth and all these like freshly dug graves. But then I guess if you do, look at it from that point of view where like, they do have some type of protection or something from God, it does kind of make sense.
Yeah. So no, I dug that side of it a lot. I thought it was an interesting place to go, because the movie's it's almost like the movie kind of like makes this assumption of the audience that the audience is immediately going to assume that Dad is crazy, because it's of course he sounds crazy. Of course this sounds like he's just going off the deep end. I love the swerve that no, this was actually, at least as far as we can tell from all the evidence that's presented at the end, is all legit. And it even does that thing because obviously the reason why we think McConaughey is actually Fenton is because of the names that he gives at the start, but Also, because he says he promised Adam that he would bury him in that garden. But when we get to that point where where the kid Fenton like kills Bill Paxton, he turns around and says, "Promise me you'll bury me in that garden." And that's when the FBI agent's like, "Wait, this doesn't add up. You said that you promised him you'd bury him there." And then he's like, no, I am Adam. And I get the impression that Adam's, or Fenton's saying to Adam, like, promise me you'll bury me in that garden. It kind of sounds like Fenton had realized at that moment that he was, like, one of the bad people. It sounds like he knew he was one of the people that eventually, like, Adam would come hunting after him.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know. I got that gist. I got that vibe.
Yeah, I can see something like that. And it's also just, like, a nice, I don't know, like, poetic justice or something where he's like, yeah, like that's where the victims of his father were buried, and that's kind of what he is, so
yeah,
it works out nicely.
Yeah, the moment earlier on that I was talking about with the silhouette that I really liked, I think it's not the first person that Bill Paxton brings home, it might be the second. Yeah, maybe the guy they got from the car who turned out to kill kids, but he when they put him into the barn and into the kind of the dungeon area, there's a moment where like he makes the kids go in first, and you get the impression that he's going to make them, or make Fenton kill him. It cuts back to him standing outside the door of the shed, and he's just kind of like standing there in silhouette, and it had this really ominous quality to it where it's like the kid, like Fenton knew he was about to be asked to do this, and it's kind of this opposing or intimidating kind of just like shadowy figure of the father, because there's a lot of shots in this, of course, of like Bill Paxton standing with the axe as the camera's looking up at him from down the stairs, and then again at the end, Matthew McConaughey has the same shot where when he's standing above the grave with the FBI agent, because it turns out, because he keeps bringing up throughout the movie, like, oh, that photo of you and your mother on the desk. It turns out that this FBI agent killed his mother, and that's why he's been hunted as a demon, and so he kills him and buries him in this graveyard at the end.
Yeah. It seems kind of like weird. I'm kind of like, I wonder what his mother did. It's like, especially because it's not like, usually if I would hear something like, oh, like, they killed his mother, like a lot of times, like the thing that I go to is like, okay, like, did they do something like on their deathbed or like, when their mother's older, maybe they're like slowly poisoning them or something like that. Or maybe like, yeah, kind of, smother them with a pillow when they were asleep. But he like is straight up like is just stabbing her when she's like outside doing laundry.
Yeah, it's really random. I was expecting an explanation as to why he hated his mother. Like, why did he kill her? But it never actually gives you. It just shows you that he did. So, fair enough, I suppose. Also, his hair was making me laugh a little bit. They sort of gave him this sort of younger man's hair.
Yeah.
for the little flashback, and it was kind of cracking me up a little bit. But no, I really like the ending, because the other little final twist that we've not mentioned yet is that when they realise that they're looking for Fenton, that Fenton is the one who's this god hand killer, they go to like talk to his brother, and the little twist is that Matthew McConaughey's character Adam is actually the sheriff of the town. In fact, it's even teased early on, because the FBI agent calls the sheriff station and talks to the woman who works there, who turns out to be Adam's girlfriend / wife who works there. But Matthew McConaughey comes out in full sheriff's uniform and talks to the FBI agent who saw him earlier on but never recognizes him. He just talks to him as if he's never seen him before. Yeah. It's this little moment, and it's like, no, he became the sheriff, and he's like hunting down demons after dark. That's kind of what he does.
Yeah. It is a very twisty movie. Like it feels like it never feels like too much, but there is like like a twist on a twist on a twist.
Yeah, kind of. It doesn't. It never, like, I don't think any of the twists on their own are earth shattering, but they all kind of nicely fit together, where none of them feel like they betray another twist that it's already had.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's not like this final twist that he's also the sheriff is like, oh, that's like a complete swerve again from what we thought it was like 10 minutes ago. No. It just kind of adds on to it. It just adds on to another layer that he's also the sheriff. It's so yeah, that's okay. So this idea that he's become, he's almost to help his work, he's ingrained himself by becoming the sheriff in this town, so he can get away with his demon hunting even better. It seems like the woman knows what he's doing as well, or at the very least.
I got that impression. Yeah,
because he says something like, as God wills it or something. So at the very least, she knows he's religious, but
Yeah.
Yeah. The movie ends with them walking back out of the station. No, I really like that. I will say I really did appreciate the fact that when, after about half an hour in the movie, when Matthew McConaughey says, "Oh, I think I know where the bodies are buried. They're buried in this rose garden." Powers Booth agrees to go there in the middle of the night. I did appreciate that he made him wear handcuffs, because I was like, "Are you really going to go somewhere like weird like this with this random guy who came in on your own with no precautions?" Like, yeah, it made sense that he made him wear handcuffs.
Yeah, like I was waiting for him to. I was like, yeah, you're not gonna like, I don't know, call for backup or like, just call someone to say like, hey, just let you know, like I'm taking this, yeah, like weird person out to here or something. But I mean, again, like it can kind of make sense where, yeah, given with hey, they kind of have the protection going on, and then also if he is a kind of like shitty, corrupt, dude, he might not like.
That's the stuff that kind of makes it work the most, I think, is that because he turns out to be someone who killed someone, it feels like, no, he is the type of guy who maybe wants to not have any of this on record in case, so. It made enough sense by the time you get to the end and you realize it. I think Powers Booth is actually perfect for this role as well, because he I mean, not to typecast the poor guy, but he had a very kind of like. It's not the first time I've seen him play someone who's like not supposed to be a villain at first, but he's clearly going to be the villain by the end, kind of thing, or a villain by the end. He's not the villain, I suppose, in this case. The villain is Fenton. Fenton's the villain, the dirty villain in this movie.
Sure.
He's a serial killer. No? Okay.
Who's to say who the villains are? God, demons, cops, the FBI. I don't know.
I don't know what to tell you, but no, I mean, it's a movie with a lot of twists and turns. I think what kind of anchors it though, because it'd be one thing if it all worked in the last like 20 minutes where it's dropping all these twists on you, but I think because the general plot of like the kid feeling uneasy because the dad's like clearly building up to becoming a serial killer, or at least that's what it seems like. Obviously with the hindsight of the ending, it's like, oh, he was actually maybe getting messages from God. He actually was hunting demons from the sounds of it. Now, literal demons or just or demons like more of like an entity that like possesses someone and makes them evil in this world? I don't know, but
yeah, like I think my takeaway would be more like, yeah, these aren't like people with like horns and like a little like devil tail and stuff, but like, yeah, it is more like, oh no, these are just like bad people who have sinned, and and yeah, whether or not it's like they did that of their own free will, or I don't know if it's trying to say like a demon possessed them, but yeah, it just meant more like evil person than literal demon. But I mean, yeah, that's how they view people that sin. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess I kind of took it as that in this movie's world, anyone who does something this evil has just always been a demon. Like, it's the idea that,
sure,
like, good people never turn into this. Like, it's always, evil people at their core are just demons to begin with, and it was always going to happen, I guess. It's kind of how I read it. But, I mean, you could read it any way you want, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those movies that I think there's a lot of fun stuff to think about. Like, there's enough ambiguity there that, like, you could kind of make cases for the way things are presented, because like we're saying, like it definitely does seem like there is something going on here where this might really be happening, but I think there's still an argument to be made where things could still be rationally explained, like
I don't know, the FBI agent just clearly not recognizing Matthew McConaughey even though he saw him like 2 nights ago is pretty concrete. I don't know. Maybe
I don't know. I mean, I feel like people see a lot of you see so many people throughout the day, and then like especially if he's not really paying attention, like he just looks like a. I mean, he's a Hollywood actor, so he's like good looking and stuff, but like there's nothing like standoutish about him that might make him go like, huh.
The context of when he saw him, though, is he came into the office and said, hey, I'm ready to go unless you want me to stay. And then he looks at McConaughey because he's like, in case this guy's dangerous. And Powers Booth says, nah, it's okay, on you go. So the fact that he considered him as maybe dangerous and that he might have to stick around as backup for his boss, I would think he's more memorable than just any random person who walked into the office that day.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's out of the realm of possibility that he, just might not put it together.
Or not even just that. The fact that this is a weird guy who like insisted on speaking to a specific agent in the middle of the night, like he's kind of noteworthy in that sense. Whereas Tim is ready to believe this guy's just an idiot and just doesn't remember.
Sure. Well, that's what I'm saying, that the movie is like pointing towards this, but I still think there's enough like rational explanations that you can come away with all right, like is this actually going on, or are these people crazy?
I'll buy the security tapes are a coincidence potentially. Like that's ambiguous if you want to just read it as it just happens to be distorted and you can't see them. The FBI agent not being able to recognize him though, to me that's like the movie saying, nah, this is definitely real and he's actually on a mission from God, like Blues Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the movie is leaning towards, but again, I just think that I'm just saying that there's enough stuff there that's fun to think about that you can see it like multiple ways. It's not like concrete, like this is definitely happening here.
It's not concrete. What's the next thing that's almost as strong as concrete though?
Rubber. Teflon.
Frailty is Teflon. Quote unquote. Timmy V 2020. He's on a mission from God, just like the Blues Brothers. This is in the Blues Brothers cinematic universe. And Blues Brothers, their mission, of course, is to do blues music. And this movie is to kill demons who are hurting people.
But no, like it's I do think it's like a fun, engrossing movie. And then, like you said, the I think like Paxton does like a pretty good job of directing. Like I would say, his stuff like isn't too flashy, but there's like some subtle, like like pretty good things. Like you're talking about like the silhouettes, and then there are just like some scenes, like especially the more ominous stuff, and like and like when he's being thrown down in the pit, and it's just like very dark and like it's obscuring a lot of stuff, and then a lot of these nighttime scenes where it's just like very quiet and a lot of like good stuff. Like
when a moment required tension, he was able to pull it off. Just purely from a directing point of view, he pulled off the tension. So that does that, and then obviously as an actor, he kind of owns that character, and he does such a good job with it that. Honestly, the pacing is great. It's an hour 40. It goes in at a nice pace. It feels like it's introducing new ideas. It keeps the tension up whenever it's doing this stuff, and the tension, at least until the last like 20-30 minutes, is all about what this dad's going to do in front of his kids or make his kids participate in, and that stuff all works really well, and that's kind of the backbone of the movie. Because that's the bulk of the movie, right? And then once you get to that last 30 minutes where it starts doing all these reveals and starts like messing with things, I don't think it's like a classic. I think a cult movie is definitely the best descriptor for it, because I feel like it's really inventive. It's lots of cool little ideas, and it has fun with those ideas, without feeling like it's doing it in a goofy way. But at the same time, I don't think it all necessarily clicks together in the way that it's instantly like, oh, this is like a one that movies are going to like be inspired by for decades and stuff like that. It's kind of in that perfect kind of, I guess, what am I trying to say here? It's kind of a great movie that's flawed, but it's never going to be as inspirational or like completely ironclad like I don't know, something else like from horror's annals.
Like a House.
House. That's what you go with when I'm saying that. House. What am I trying? I'm trying to think of another movie from this time period specifically that kind of stood the test of time and is like. And this does hold up. I'm not trying to say this doesn't hold up. What am I trying to say? I guess like to go to a different era. I'm saying that this isn't Halloween, but it's but it's like Halloween had a lot of like inventive slasher movies that came out that did like wacky things that I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I feel like I've got a point that I'm trying to make, and I can't really quite articulate it, and it's annoying me.
it wasn't like a trendsetter. Like it didn't like spark off a bunch of like it's a perfectly fine movie, but it didn't have a lot of imitators or like a lot of people going like, oh, we got to make our version of Frailty.
Yeah, I guess.
Then,
I know what I'm trying to say, and I can't quite get it out there, and that's frustrating to me. But basically, it's not like, it's a really good inventive movie that's very endearing in what it's doing, and it pulls it off to a really admirable degree. And I think when you watch, you go, that was kind of fun. It did what it wanted to do, but it's not like something that's like going to be heralded as a masterpiece. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I watched it, but I probably won't watch it again for a while. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, gonna put this on every year. I do like that it is a nice one and done movie though. Like, it's I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if this was something that like had 3 or 4 like straight to like DVD like like crappy sequels with like none of the original involved, but no, I think it's nice that it like kind of stands perfectly well on its own.
Yeah. I guess to sum up what I was trying to say there is that it's a cult gem, and I don't think it was ever going to be more than a cult gem, and that's okay. Sure. That's not a bad thing, but I don't think it was ever going to rise above being a cult gem, I suppose is what the point I was trying to make. I could have saved a lot of time by just saying that, I suppose, but that's what I was getting at.
Well, I mean, and it's nice that like in this age where almost everything's like a blockbuster that comes out, it's nice to have like a a smaller movie like this that's not trying to be something huge and big and epic. Like, it's a nice just solid story, kind of folksy, honestly like a little Stephen Kingy. Like, I could see this being like a short story he would have had, like especially with the idea of like kids being told from like the kid's point of view and stuff. Like, I like it. That all works for me. But
and I think you side with Fenton for most of the movie as well. You're kind of on his side.
Oh, totally.
And it's from his perspective, and I think that's also another big reason why it works so well. So I don't want anything I just said about saying it was never going to be more like a cult gem as saying it's not great, because I actually do think it's a great movie. I'm actually impressed with how well it holds up. It's definitely of its time. It feels of its era, but not in a bad way. It's
no.
I think it's going to, if I go back and rank my 2001 released movies, this is probably going to climb the chart a little bit for me now that I've rewatched that again. So I guess with that we'll rate the movie. Timmy, what are you going to give Frailty?
Yeah, you know what? Why not? I'll give it a straight 8. Like, it's like it's good. It's not I guess maybe I wouldn't put it too much higher than that, but no, it's like really solid. I had fun revisiting it. It's it's a lot of great performances. It's it definitely it does make you miss Paxton for sure.
Oh yeah.
No, this is a great outing for him, and I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, just fight with a cat off camera. It's all right. I actually, the straight 8 is what I was thinking, honestly. That's what I had in my mind when I finished watching it. I was just it's very solid in what it does. I think it's a very dependable effort. It's so straight 8 out of 10 for me for all the reasons we've discussed. I would recommend it if you ever saw Frailty. I'd go back and check it out, and I think you'll find something that's worth watching. So
or even if you have seen it but it's like been a while, because I mean, it's like 19 years old now at this point, or will be this year, I guess. Because it was 2001, right?
Yeah, so it's 19 years old.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what part of the year it came out, but I mean, regardless, it's close enough.
Yeah.
19 years old.
But so if it's been a while, why not give it a go? Check it out.
Yeah. So that does that. I will make Tim do his pause now for funds.
Okay.
So I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1 and say pause. Make sure your head's not cut off at the top there. So just, there you go, lean back. So 3, 2, 1, pause. Very good. Tim's done his pause. So actually, when we started recording today, I put a tweet on @StreamsMidnight saying, if anyone asks us an interesting question before we're done recording today, we'd answer it at the end of the show. So, yes. Unfortunately, the question comes from @Tufty_W23,
Okay.
Which is our friend James, so we know who this is. But
Okay.
he did ask, who would make the best final girl, Pete or Tim?
Interesting. Okay.
I'm going to say you, mainly because I feel like I'm the clearly intelligent character who gets killed off for being too smart, because the killer knows I'll outsmart them. So.
Okay. See, that's funny because I was gonna say you, because I feel like I'm like the more like popular, cool person. Well, like yeah, you're more the innocent, pure one.
Okay. All right. All right. Tim is the one who in the final girls they have dance at the door to attract the killer.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I can see it. All right. Okay. Yeah.
I feel like we're of a like a, what do you call it? Like I don't know. I feel like stamina wise we're pretty evenly matched. So I don't think either one of us could like outrun the other. I don't know. Maybe that's insulting. I don't know. But
I can't believe the quote that people are going to take out of context is Tim saying, I think stamina wise, we're pretty much equal.
Hey, I mean, we both go on our walks, but I don't think either of us is is going to make it too far running wise.
Yeah, sure. I can't wait till people take that sound bite out of context. So there you go, question answered. So yeah, follows That Screams Midnight, because I might do that in future recording dates. Now, admittedly, we record these episodes somewhat in advance, so by the time you actually hear the response to that, it'll be a while. So there's going to be a batch here where people think we don't actually do this. we just ignore the questions and we don't answer them. But Follow That Screams Midnight for this reason. Yeah.
I do think that was a good question, though. That was a fun one.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, it could be silly. Don't have to be serious questions. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, so there you go.
Oh no, I was gonna say. I mean, we can answer more questions when we stream, but this will probably, not coincide with when this episode comes out. Probably won't coincide with that.
That said, though, we're streaming at least next month as well at the time of recording, and the Patreon is looking like we might be streaming indefinitely, once a month for a while. Streams after midnight once a month, as long as we're over a certain goal on Patreon. Me and Tim will be doing a live stream once per month called Streams After Midnight, where maybe we'll watch a movie with the chat, maybe we'll do a tier video together and just do some general Q&A and hang out with the people. But yes, so look forward to that. Check your local Screams After Midnight Twitter for updates as to when that'll be happening. So yeah, that is pretty much us though. So thank you for joining us. I mentioned Patreon there again. So another thing to mention is like and subscribe on YouTube. Liking is really important. It's a nice free way of supporting us and letting more people find us on YouTube. Same with rating the podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast from. Give us 5 stars and all that sort of jazz. More people will find us. It's really helpful. So please do. And then give us monies on Patreon and get some exclusives for your troubles. So all of that is fantastic. So please do that. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys. And we will see you next time.